you can flip your lid and that cortex goes offline. And so now the emotional brain and the reflexive or survival brain are running the show. And they don't speak the language of words. And this is what CREM taps into. They speak the language of sensation. So once this cortex goes offline, if you're trying to reason with someone who's upset using your words, you've probably seen this if you have children or a spouse or partner and you're having a verbal argument when they're upset, it's not really going in and it's not really effective. So what CREM does is it teaches us skills that use sensation to calm the amygdala, to calm the brainstem, and say, it's okay. We can close our lid and put our cortex back online, and then it's a better time for us to come back and have problem solving, thinking, discussion, those higher level skills. So I just want you to know that that's why we're focusing so much on sensation, and it's really research based and it's really effective. So just to repeat what we've learned so far, we've got tracking at the middle, paying attention to what's going on in our body. We learned resourcing, bringing to mind something that gives us a sense of peace, strength, or joy. Now we just learned grounding. So that helps us be in the present moment by paying attention to where our body makes contact with a surface that's beneath it or supporting it. And our next skill, see if I can remember here, gesturing. Sorry, I had to refer to my notes there. So gesturing is a movement, usually of our body or our limbs, that expresses an idea, a feeling, or an attitude. I don't do this one as much. We usually do the basic three. So we all know what a gesture is. Some of the ones that come to mind for me are like a fist bump when you're watching a game and you're excited that they're winning. Thumbs up is one that we see a lot. But what we focus on with CREM is gestures that are particularly self-soothing or calming, gestures that bring us a feeling of joy or strength. So I'm going to go through each of those and encourage you to think about a gesture that might represent each of those emotions. And then when we do that gesture, we're going to pay attention to what happens inside our body. So first, let's take a minute and think about whether there's a gesture that we can call to mind for the emotion of joy. And for me, it's kind of funny, but I think of like Christmas morning where I'm like, so my joy gesture is kind of folding my hands and just looking really excited. And I want you to take a minute and think of what a joyful gesture would look like for you. And go ahead and do that gesture. Hopefully no one's around, and if they are, it's part of your training, you have to do it. But as you do your gesture, I want you to pay attention to what's happening inside your body. So I want you to go back and do some tracking. So it's funny, I notice a lot of energy and warmth rushing to my heart. It just sort of feels like everything becomes energized in this space. Probably because I'm putting my hands there, but that's what joy feels like on the inside to me. And I encourage you to reflect on what it feels like to you. And then we want to think of a gesture of strength. And I told you a little bit at the beginning about sisu, that word in Finnish that means resilience. And so I came up with a gesture where we tap our chest, kind of right at the middle of the breastbone, and we just say, remember your sisu. And you can say it in your head. But that's my gesture for strength. And when I do that, I kind of feel a strong feeling at my core. It feels very solid and grounded. And I encourage you to think of a gesture that embodies strength. Take a minute to think of what that might look like, and then pay attention to what's happening inside your body. Go back and do that tracking. And then our final one, which oftentimes is the most helpful depending on where you are in your zone, is calming or self-soothing. So a lot of times, for calming, I'll just kind of like rub either my cheek, or if I'm sitting in a training, maybe I'll rub my hand or my arm to kind of calm myself down, to soothe myself. So I want you to think about a gesture that you might be able to do that embodies calming or self-soothing, and then pay attention to what's happening inside your body. So it's funny, as I do that one, I get sort of a tingling coming up my neck and into my face. It's a pleasant tingling. So just know that any of these skills that we've learned so far are in your toolbox now. So we always can come back to tracking with any of the skills. You can bring a resource to mind anytime you need to, something that brings you a sense of peace, strength, or joy. The grounding is a really great one where you can just take a moment to pay attention to how your body's making contact with the surface beneath it. Gestures, Obviously, you probably wouldn't want a really big, noticeable one if you're, in public, but you could come up with some small gestures. My little sisu one is pretty inconspicuous, and noticing what's happening to your body on the inside as you do that gesture. And then we're ready to learn our next skill, which is called Help Now. And I think of this one as being like the EpiPen of the CREM skills because it's for emergencies and it's quick. And it's actually not just one thing. So what these skills and Help Now help us do is just get us out of our high or low zone and to a feeling that we're no longer controlled by this activated nervous system or this stressful response that's going on in our body. So I'm going to read you some of the choices for Help Now. Some of them may resonate with you. Some of them may sound a little kooky. I will tell you that some of the ones that sounded weird to me actually helped when I tried them. So at my training, we had to go to stations and try each of these. And obviously right now you probably won't try each, but I'll suggest them and you can see what sounds like it might be fun to try. So they can be as simple as just opening your eyes if they have a tendency to remain shut, or closing them if the opposite is true. You can take a drink of something like water, tea, or juice because we're tapping into sensory and we're trying to take our brain off of that stressful trigger. You can look around the room and kind of pay attention to whatever catches your eye. A lot of people like this one, which is naming 6 colors that you see around you. So you're just bringing your attention to that sensory, that visual component. Counting backwards from 20 as you walk around the room. I like this next one a lot. It's kind of like grounding. So you put your hand on something in the room, or if you're outside, you touch a surface. And you just start to pay attention to what that surface is like. So noticing if it's hard, soft, rough, but really getting into the present moment with what that surface feels like. Some people prefer paying attention to the temperature in the room and what that feels like on their skin and in their body. Walking can be a great Help Now strategy. It can either be slow, mindful walking, where you really pay attention to each part of your foot as it touches the ground and you go slow, or it can be a little faster, and you can notice what's happening with your heart rate and your circulatory system inside your body. And then finally, there's one, it's sort of like grounding again, where you push your hands against a wall and use a lot of muscle strength. And I found that that sort of, for me, releases some sort of relaxation response. As soon as I do the pushing on the wall, if I'm super stressed, it just calms my body. So I'm not sure quite what's happening chemistry-wise, but it does help me. So those are Help Now skills. And, they'll bring you back into a place where you might be able to do some of the other skills. These are like your emergency skills. And I encourage you to see if there are others that might work for you if that list doesn't seem like it has any that resonate, or to try some that sound a little weird and you might find that you like it. Like I said, I ended up liking, we did the wall touching at my training and that was really helpful. I liked pushing on the wall. So give them a try and see what you think. So that's Help Now. And then our last one is called Shift and Stay. And it's really not a new skill from the other skills, it's just putting it all together. So what we learn to do is to shift our attention away from unpleasant sensations and toward those sensations that are pleasant or neutral, right? It sums up what we've learned so far. And then we stay there. So if you're distressed, you can shift your attention to a place in your body that feels less painful, that feels calmer, that feels more comfortable or neutral. You can shift your attention to one of your resources. So remember, that's a person, a place, an idea that brings you strength, joy, or peace. You can shift your attention to grounding in the present moment by noticing how your body makes contact with the surface beneath it. Or you can shift your attention to one of your self-soothing gestures. So, I liked the rubbing of the face or the arm, and whatever yours might be, you can shift into that and stay. And as you shift your attention, you track what's happening inside your body, and you bring your focus towards those sensations that are more pleasant or neutral, and away from those that are distressing or unpleasant. And as your sensations change, you can do like a body scan and really pay attention to your whole body and just kind of lean into it. I will say that all of this takes some practice because as a society, we're more used to describing our feelings and our emotions, and being still with our body and just sitting with that can be a little bit tricky. So as I mentioned in the beginning, practice and build those neural pathways with your CREM skills. Just to repeat what those are, We've got tracking at the middle, paying attention to what's happening inside our body, focusing on those sensations that are more pleasant or neutral. We've got sorry, we just did it. Resourcing, bringing to mind a person, place, thing, or idea that gives us a sense of strength, joy, or peace. Grounding, being in the present moment by paying attention to where your body makes contact with a surface that's supporting it. Gesturing, so remember that's doing some sort of movement that represents a feeling, an idea, an attitude. And we like to focus on gestures of strength, joy, and calming or self-soothing. The help now strategies, that are those list of sensory tricks, drinking a glass of water, pushing against the wall, kind of your EpiPen to get you back to your zone quickly. And then shift and stay, so shifting away from something that's unpleasant towards a sensation or an idea that's more pleasant or neutral, and then staying there. And just realizing that all of these skills that I taught you are designed to help you not only stay in your resilient zone more often, but also get back into it more quickly when you bounce out, and over time widen your resilient zone so that the bumping out happens more infrequently. So I hope that was helpful. Feel free to email me, call me, text me if you have any questions, or if you'd like to do the full training, I offer a 1-day training or a 2-day training where we can really get into practicing these skills, learning more about the neuroscience behind it. That's very interesting to me. So thank you again, and bye for now.